If you haven't enjoyed it, then you don't need to pay. That's a promise. If you haven't enjoyed it, at the end of the tour, you just walk away quickly before I can kill you. We're the only tour company in the whole of England that make the offer. No enjoyment, no pay. Second thing is I'll bring you back here at the end of the evening. We're going to visit a part of London which is not on the tourist map. It's interesting, oh it is. But believe me when I tell you that you wouldn't like to be left there by yourself. So I'll bring you back to the end of the evening. But let's begin. Imagine we are in London, the London of Queen Victoria. The year is 1888. It's the largest, it's the richest city in the world. Not everybody is rich. In the East End live the poor people. That is where Jack the Ripper went looking for his victims. What may surprise you is that there are only 5 victims. That's all. 5 murders that happened over 100 years ago. I've brought you here tonight to listen to the mystery. Why he was never caught. These 5 victims, of course, were all females. They were all prostitutes, and the popular vision of a Victorian prostitute is a happy woman dancing, singing, and drinking beer. Forget it. They were nothing like that. They drank, oh yes, they drank, but they didn't drink beer. They drank gin. It was called Mother's Ruin. They believed that if they drank gin, they'd never get pregnant. They drank it. They drank a lot of it. They all became alcoholics. All the murders happened at the weekend between midnight and dawn. And from the first to the last murder, 9 weeks. The police who were trying to catch Jack the Ripper then, as now, we have 2 police forces here in our capital city. The dividing line between the two is this wall to my right-hand side. This is part of the old city wall built by the Romans in the year 200. Now this side of the wall was controlled by the city police. The other side was controlled by the Metropolitan Police. So we have 2 police forces side by side. So the accommodation they could afford was of the very worst kind. Look at the pictures and pass them on. Notice the narrow streets, the little houses, but most important,
pubs.
notice the children. Look at those children. You see their faces? They're living in the richest city in the world, and half of them will be dead before they're 5 years old. Their killer was hunger, typhoid. Now, many of you come from foreign countries. You have this rather strange habit of criticizing our hotels. Well, I can't understand that, but let me tell you this. Wherever you are staying tonight is a palace. Oh, yes, it's a palace compared to a doss house. In a doss house, you didn't rent a... Not because you are cold, but if you take your clothes off, somebody's gonna steal them. Up to 200 people sleeping in one room. The old, the young, the sick, the mentally ill. Now, how much did it cost to rent a wooden box for the night? I will show you. It cost 4 pennies. These are genuine coins. Each of them was made in 1888, the year of the murders. Now, 4 pennies like you hold in your hand would pay for a wooden box like you see in the photograph for one night. But the rules were very strict. You had to pay for your box in advance. They did not give credit. The rule was this: no pay, no stay. And tonight you're going to hear how 2 women lost their lives. Pennies today is worth about £1, that's all. And there would have been a lot of men working in this part of London. But the women were not allowed to stand still. Nor could they approach a man and offer their services. No, they had to keep moving and hope their customers came looking for them. What they did was this. They formed a chain of women around the church. Imagine the scene. When they came along the front, the road was busy, so they try and look attractive and desirable. When they got round the back, it was empty. No chance of any customers down there, so they would pull up their long skirts and run all the way round the church back to the beginning. And it is just where we are standing now. The victim number 4 met Jack the Ripper. Won't tell you her story just yet. Later, oh later, you will hear all about her. And when I talk about victim number 4, I shall mention this church. St. Botolph's at Aldgate. Problem with sex, we get easily embarrassed about the subject. Very rarely talk about it. Until quite recently there was a play on in London actually called...
Yep, modern times. Better catch up to my tour. We went down here. Oh, cool. Thanks, sir.
Panama, I know where Panama City is. My two sons, and their bedroom also faced a narrow, dirty, dark little street. Oh, it was dark. There was only one light along its length, a gas light with a little flame, and the flame would flicker and splutter through the nighttime hours, but the glow did not reach into the dark corners of grounds stable yard entrance. It was the 31st of August, 20 minutes to 4 in the morning, and a man called Cross was walking to work. As he walked along, he noticed something in the shadows. Could not tell what it was, but he was curious. So he crossed over to investigate, and looking down, he saw a woman lying on her back. Her left hand was touching the gates of the stable yard. Her right hand was down by her side, and the fingers were resting on the brim of a black bonnet. At first he thought, she's drunk, because seeing drunks in this part of London was a very common sight. Or maybe she's a rape victim, because he could see her long skirt had been pushed up above her waist, and she was wearing no underclothes. At that moment, a second man walks past, Robert Paul, and Cross calls him over. Come here, mate.
Huh. That's cool. And
about the same gate, doesn't it?
yeah, right.
Look at the same house.
So you begin to get the feeling that all these murders happen in an extremely small area. And they did.
That's the second one right there.
And it's very, very good quality. When I told you the first victims last seen alive standing outside the pub called the Frying Pan, remember that? Yeah, well, it's the Frying Pan. This is where the first victim was last seen alive at 2:30 in the morning. Or, to be more precise, in between where you and you are standing just there. They say the restaurant is haunted by a ghost, if you believe in ghosts. East end of London is the finest street of Georgian houses that you can see.
Three
in our
religions
town.
are worshipped there.
They were built by people who came from France, called the Huguenots. Now the Huguenots were Protestants, and in Catholic France they were persecuted. So they came here and built these houses. In
Right behind here is where murder occurred. Yep. Annie Chapman. People were renting out their windows for
Only two on the door.
renting out the windows so you could see it.
hide in the shadows. Steamshills the man tried to find him with the whip. Imagine this. Imagine this. When Deemshield struck his match, if he hadn't been looking down, but instead been looking up, would he have looked straight into the eyes? I don't know. I don't know. You traveling with him tonight? May God have mercy. All I can tell you is that he hasn't satisfied his lust for blood. He has to find another victim, and he has to find her quickly. And victim number 5 was drinking in that pub on the night before their deaths. The very last scene of From Hell, the movie, takes place on the steps of this church. Christchurch. This translated? Nein, die Juden sind immer die nicht schuldig werden. Drinking. Who should be drinking with and where she got the money from,
Minor
we
Square.
don't know. But eventually she
The
found
murder shouldn't
herself
have
drunk
happened.
outside the prostitute's church. Remember the church that I showed you? Just
It's the
around
same
corner.
square, different
We come
buildings.
in a large circle.
Except the
She lay
school
down and
is
went
the
to
same.
sleep. The police tried to lie there and tried
Okay.
to read. Where you going?
Go to it.
But when they read that, they always wet themselves.
Catherine
They-
Hales killed there.
Now
Victim
the
number
square
4.
has 4 entrances,
Minor
and
Square.
4 times an hour, a policeman would walk through here on patrol every 15 minutes.